Hi everyone, we'll be waiting 2 to 3 minutes before starting the webinar to accommodate for the rest of the attendees who are in the middle of connecting. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us and thanks for being part of our community. My name is Valen Kolika and I'll be your host for today. A few reminders before we start. If you have issues viewing the stream at any time during the presentation and are using the web browser version of Teams, please refresh your browser. If you're using the desktop app of Teams, please exit and rejoin. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared publicly. We will post the recordings on our community at aka.ms/security-webinars. Closed captions in several languages are available during the live broadcast, and you can enable them by clicking on the CC button located at the lower right corner of your screen. Feel free to ask questions at any time by typing them in the live event Q&A window, just simply by clicking on the Ask Question button. Be aware that any questions you post will be publicly visible. However, if you prefer, you can post your question anonymously. You can do so by checking the box right below where you entered it. We often get many questions on these webinars, and we will do our best to respond to all of them in real time. In the event if the answer was not provided, or if you may have additional questions post this event, please don't hesitate to raise them on our Azure Purview forum at aka.ms/Azure Purview community. If you're listening to this after the fact as a recording, that's also a great place to ask a question. Now, we love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars, and you can do so at aka.ms/security-webinar-feedback. I would also like to take the opportunity to invite you to join our public community by visiting aka.ms/security-community. That's the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. On our community, you can speak directly to our engineering teams that create our security products, and you'll be able to influence our product designs and get early access to changes by doing things like participating in private previews, and you can sign up for that at aka.ms/security-prp. You can request features, give feedback, review our product roadmaps, register for events, or just simply join webinars like this. We believe that the best way to improve our products is by removing any barriers between you and the people that create them. So we hope you'll join us. In today's session, Lori Rickberg will introduce us to Azure Purview. Lori is Principal Program Manager, now with Azure Purview team. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to her. Lori, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone. My name is Lori Lotwak, and I'm working on the Azure Purview team across a number of different teams, and together we are excited to share with you our new data governance service we just released in public preview. So let's take a look. What are we going to cover today? First, we will talk about the sprawling world of data, how it's growing, and what that means for organizations around the world. We'll go through an overview of the Purview product, and then we'll jump into a demo. And I'll say to my colleagues, like, stop me at some point because I often go way too long on demos. I love doing the demos, but we want to make sure that we leave time for Q&A. And at the same time, of course, feel free to add those questions in the Ask Questions by the Q&A chat window during the webinar. So let's get started. So let's start where our customers start, in that sprawling world of data. As we started engaging with customers early on in the creation of Purview, we heard loud and clear about the need for a comprehensive data governance solution. So industry research in this space tells us that we're looking at never before seen volume, velocity, and variety of data. But also, organizations have a hard time putting that data to work to generate value. So how many folks here can say that you know what your data is, where your data is, and what your exposure to risk looks like? It's a common conversation we have with customers. And how do we get there? Because it is such a complex and broad environment, we know that chief data officers who are focused on digital transformation and making data discoverable and maximizing the business value from data have a lot of work to do and have to work across disciplines, right? They must understand what data exists, where and how to make it available to data consumers, and work with security and compliance and others to make sure that risk is managed and that they have the tools at hand, right? So it makes sense that well-managed data is easier to secure and keep compliant, and that when you have well-managed data, it's also easier for your data consumers to use effectively. And so when you incorporate and have this broader view and you integrate all of those things, it becomes security and compliance and data discovery becomes an enabler for the business rather than a speed bump or something that slows you down. So let's take a look at the elements of successful data governance. As organizations embark on that digital transformation, it's clear they're generating data everywhere, right? From IoT devices to operational and analytical data. As they migrate and modernize, they still have data on premise, but they also have it in one cloud, two clouds, three clouds, and third-party and SaaS apps and all these different things, which it's spread across business units, geographies, and so many data sources. So it's really important to manage that growing data landscape. They also need to empower their user to make data-driven decisions. That's the point, right? Democratizing data, creating broad sets of data consumers who need access to that, and overcoming those operational silos. That allows them to get business done faster and more effectively. But of course, then they need to access it within regulatory boundaries and all the requirements that increasingly pile up on, I'm sure many of you out there, having to figure out not just the compliance and regulations, but also security concerns about how do you keep that precious strategic asset safe within the right set of boundaries, understanding who has access to it, what they should be doing with it. So with that, we are proud to introduce Azure Purview to help you reimagine data governance. Right? We'll talk about how Purview helps you reimagine it from this manual, costly, time-consuming effort with so many gaps to a cloud-native, purpose-built service to address discovery and compliance needs for your data. Let's dive in. What are the elements? So what is it that we're enabling through this unified data governance? First, let's think about what does it mean to reimagine? Well, when customers have told us is they have these homegrown and manual solutions that don't adapt well to their growing data environments. and are costly and full of gaps, right? So we allow you to manage and govern operational and transactional and analytical data in a fully managed serverless PaaS service, right? Eliminating much of that manual and homegrown aspects, the ad hoc nature of like, where is my data? What is my data? And then how do I scale as my data grows? My business usage grows, my regulatory requirements grow. Well, we help you automate the discovery of that data on-premise, multi-cloud, SaaS sources, right? We also classify that data at scale with sensitivity information, classifications, compliance, industry, business, and company-specific terms that allow you to really know that data. And we help you know where the data comes from and what was derived from it using data lineage. On the maximizing data value, we help you connect your business and technical data analysts, data scientists to the trusted data catalog. What is the right data to use? What is the right set of access that they should have? Enabling users to quickly find the data, view its lineage and sensitivity, and make better use of it. And deliver a curated and consistent glossary of business terms, both that come out of the box or create terms and templates from your own business data definitions. Lastly, of course, we want to make sure that we have good oversight and insight into the data use across the estate, right? Where is that data? How's it being created? Where is it being used? What is the state of those data assets? Where is my sensitive data? How do I manage that and control that? So of course, that is the full view of data governance. Let's take a look at how we actually accomplish that. Purview achieves all of this using a unified data map. So over here, you can see the data map is the center, the core, right? It's the heart. It automates extraction of your data and metadata at scale across on-prem and your SaaS apps and your multi-cloud apps, right? Customers can then apply classifications to the data, qualifying its business value with 100 and more out-of-the-box classifiers, using Microsoft Information Protection sensitivity labels and custom classifiers, right? Further, the data map also helps understand data as it relates to each other and captures that end-to-end data lineage. So once we have that rich data map with all of that metadata in there, there's many experiences that are valuable to build on top of that. We have the data catalog, and then we have the data insights. The data catalog enables data consumers to find that trustworthy, valuable data using an intuitive semantic search and browse experience. Within this experience, stewards can standardize business terms and definitions with the help of the business glossary. Moving up, we see that data insights allows chief data officers and security and compliance teams to have this bird's eye view into their data estate. With the help of insights reports, customers can now view and drill down on the data that they have. Where is it? The sensitivity across all of their data sources and consumers. So what are customers telling us? Well, for this customer, after being in preview with our Azure Purview service, customers like Andrew Eisenman tell us that they see the positive business impact on their user, those data analysts, as well as seeing the way forward to govern their expanding data estate, being more data-driven and efficient. All right, so there we have our overview. I really am excited now to take a tour. So I'm going to pause right here and bring up my demo environment. And it will take just a moment. Okay, can folks see that now? I'm assuming the answer is yes.
Yes, looks good. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, that helps. Okay, so here we are. I'll say that to start off, that Azure Purview Studio is a standalone portal. You instantiate in the Azure portal and it takes you to the home screen that we're now in. So let's take a look around. You can see on the left here, we've got the home, which is where we are. It knows that I have recently created a Purview account, and so it shows me things that might be of interest to me, from the Knowledge Center to the ability to onboard register sources, to browse things that I may already have under management, and to manage my business glossary. So on the left, we have the sources, and we'll jump into each of these briefly and then come back to a deeper tour. So here are the sources that show me what I've got presently under management in both a graphical form and a table view. All right, then the business glossary, where look, it has system default terms that I get to apply across the set of data that I have being registered and scanned in the data assets in my environment. We'll come back to the insights, which allow us to take a look at that bird's eye view of what I've got across my data estate, across asset scanning, glossary, classification, sensitivity labels, and file extensions. And then I've got, of course, got the place where I get all the management information and things like setting access controls or bringing in external connections or setting up the set of classification rules or adding custom classifiers. All right, so I am here. I am a Purview admin, and welcome to Purview, the Azure service to discover and govern your data estate. So let's start by saying when I join, I want to bring on more data sources. I've created this instance and I want to register more sources. So I'm going to jump into this register sources and come back to this map. So you can see here that we have data sources onboarded to Purview across some regions, right? And clouds. We have things like S3 buckets and Azure Data Lake. So ADLS Gen 2, we have Azure Blob Storage, we have SQL Server, Power BI, all of those things, all those disparate sources, right, that you want to be able to bring in and figure out what data is where in a unified view. So if I take a look at, say, this Azure Blob, we can see that it has not been scanned, so I can create a new scan, right? And actually, we can test the connection to see if I have access to it. And it says, yes, my connection was successful. That's down here at the bottom. So I'll continue. And I say, what are the set of assets within that blob storage that I want to be that I want to have under scope of my scan? I can continue. Then there's a number of different classification scan rule sets. So we have created system defaults for everyone, each of these types. And so I just choose the system default. And then at that point, I can then go and set up a recurring scan for each week or several days a month at a particular time, or I can do a one-off scan, right? So if I say set a scan trigger once, it just saves it and it runs it. Great, so that's as easy scanning. You can set up for different types of classified data. You can set up a recurring scan. The scanning cracks open the data sources, right? So it's not just sort of seeing at a high level what I have. It actually goes in and offers valuable metadata to stakeholders within business units, as well as the centralized security and compliance organizations and that chief data officer. Okay, so back to here, we get to see what's going on across our environment. Let's take a look at insights. So another view of all those assets that I've brought under management is to take a look at what all of those assets are. And you can see that in our environment here, we have a lot of ADLS Gen 2, we have some Amazon S3, we have SQL Server on-prem, Azure Files, Azure SQL Database, Power BI, and Azure Synapse Analytics. All right. So on here, the asset mix shows us the data under management. And next we can take a look at what we have across all of those assets. So we'll jump into the classification view. Right here, we can see the overview of the number of subscriptions that we have onboarded, the number of unique classifications found across our scans, the number of different data sources that we have onboarded and classified, and the number of files that we have then found during our scanning, and the number of tables that we have found with classifications in them. And you get this overview map that tells us what sources have had classified information, as well as the categories of classifications, and then the top classifications across files and across tables. So we're going to drill in here into View More and see that all these, I said 100 out-of-the-box classifiers. I should note that the classifiers that we have within Azure Purview are shared with the M365 Compliance Center in the sensitive information types. So when you're scanning across your M365 cloud and you're scanning across Purview set of onboarded resources, you're going to be getting the same classifications for a consistent view. And then I can filter on a particular classification. I often pick on credit card. And to see that, yes, it is in the category of financial. 4 subscriptions have had those, 5 different sources. I found it in 2,500 files. So it's like, wow, okay, so what does that mean? You know, I can then view the different source types, etc. Or I can say, from here, I want to go and directly browse the assets in that data catalog. And that will immediately take me into a search that is filtered on the set of things that I asked about, right? So it was credit card classification, and it was all the different asset types that contained that. And so immediately I know which asset types have credit card classifications, right? And so here we are in that data catalog. Here are data assets within the Azure Data Lake storage that have credit card information, and I can click on one or the other, right, and take a look at what's in them. So I get to see that. I can then search more particularly. I can say things like, oh, I want particular ones that have credit card cardholder transaction logs, right? And I can see that immediately I found that it has a credit card number. I can jump into that in particular. I can say, you know, tell me the details on this asset, and I want to know what it is. So I can see right here that it found a classification of credit card number. I don't have lineage for it because I haven't got that hooked up. I can also find out whether there's any contacts for it. And if I know the contacts, then I can go and edit the contacts to add people to here. All right. So the other thing that I really want to point out is here at the top, you can see that it says secret. And this is different from the overview where I found a classification that is a credit card number. It is a sensitivity label that is, again, shared across Microsoft Information Protection, created within M365 Compliance Center, that says, oh, in our organization, we've stated that a data asset is secret, has to be labeled secret if it contains credit card numbers. And therefore, that's what it's got on here. I may have scanned for the credit card numbers, but the Purview knew that because it created that it found that, it applied the secret label. All right, so let's go back and see what else might be labeled secret. Going back. And we can see here, as we look through further, that things with credit card numbers, we also can filter on secret. So we can see the different things that have both a credit card number and the secret label. All right, I want to actually drill into that sensitivity label that we looked at from secret, and we'll go into the insights around sensitivity labels. So here we have the insights report that show you the number of subscriptions, again, that overview view, and that tells you the top sources with labeled data, right? And the top labels applied across sources. So secret is definitely one of them. So in the same way that we could do with classifications, we can drill into these sensitivity labels and find out what is in our environment. And then if we choose secret, again, we can go back to browse assets within the catalog. And then again, it filters based on that. All right, we'll come back to sensitivity labels. Now I'm going to go back to the home and show you a few other areas. So under browse assets, we've been viewing the search experience for the data catalog. Now I'd like to take you through a little bit of the browse experience. So from browsing assets, I may say that I would like to find data that is in particular things such as my Azure SQL database, and I can go directly in there and find out what is what I have that is Azure SQL. From here, I can take a look at the schema, and down here we can see that each of the columns has classifications associated with it, right? So that not only do I have information on files, but each column, at the column level, I can be searching for and scanning for all the classifications that are appropriate for the by column. Again, rich data, ability to drill in, find out whether I've got contacts associated with it, right? So if this user info has an expert associated with it that I could potentially email, right? Or I could find the owner if I have questions or I need access to it, etc. Because Ajay is listed as the customer success business unit owner for this data. All that richness. So those are some of the annotations that you can make on the data. And I'd like to jump into the glossary and walk through that a little bit more. So here we can see that there are system defaults that have been defined and that are able to be applied to data. So if you have a particular set of terminology that allows you to take terms from your business environment, that glossary provides the vocabulary for your business users. Right? It's business terms that can be related to each other. It allows them to be categorized so that they can be understood in different contexts. Right? Then they can be mapped to assets like databases, tables, columns, and it helps in abstracting the technical jargon associated with data repositories, because customers don't need to know about columns and column names and the short names and the forms, etc. What they're going to be able to search on is the actual business value or the business unit in a vocabulary that they're more familiar with, right? And so that is what this glossary allows you to do. All right. So making a time check, I think we're still pretty good on time. So now I would like to just sort of do a quick glance at this management center. So here you can see that from the management center, you can go back to view your data sources, right? We'll come in here, scan rule sets. This allows you to set up different versions of the or custom scan rule sets. So if you only want to scan, say, for governance classifiers, and if you want to set up a particular rule set, you can create your own and assign it to a data source. You can also reach out and create runtimes that go off and connect to different data sources. All right, classifications, we'll take a look. Here are those out-of-the-box system classifiers. You can also create one that's specific to financial data, or example is an employee ID that is specific to your organization that you want to be searching for, or customer account information number that you want to create a custom classifier for. And again, these things are shared across M365 Compliance so that when you're finding those classifiers, it is matched across all of them. Okay, so here we are back in the home screen. I'm going to take you to the M365 Compliance. So you can see that here we are. We'll go to Home for M365 Compliance, and the same tenant as the Azure Purview Studio. And what I want to do next is show you a little bit about how that secret label was defined and targeted at Purview assets, leveraging that investment in the M365 Compliance and the sensitivity labels that you've created across your environment to extend them to those assets in Purview, including database columns and files. So let's take a look at information protection. And we can see the set of labels that we have created within our tenant. All right, we can scroll down and see we've got a number of labels. And it tells you that the scope for certain labels, the highly confidential one, Contoso FTE, is scope to file, email, and Purview assets, right? The same thing for secret. Whereas this DKE label is only scope to file and email. And say this recipients only is only scope to file and email. So let's take a look in here. And we'll choose this secret label. And we'll edit label to just walk through some of these things. So we've got the name and description. Go next. We can see here that we have chosen within this screen to both scope it to apply that, be able to target that label at both files and emails. And this is within the labels and Office context, the M365 environment. And also to Azure Purview assets. All right, so this includes SQL columns, files on Azure Blob Storage, and more. So great, from there, we can walk through and say that within the context of M365 files and emails, we want to encrypt. And this is what the encryption will do. And I should note that at the present time, there's no protection action, no encryption action taking place on the Azure Purview side. What we're doing is we're taking those labels and we're applying it within the Azure data, the Purview data catalog, and making that information available. Whereas the protection through encryption is specifically for the M365 side. Here we have the auto labeling rules, right? So that we said this is where we found out that credit card information, accuracy between 85 and 100, any instance count, should then automatically apply the label of secret to it. We have no protection settings for groups and sites. And here again, this is the auto labeling for database columns, right? SQL, Synapse, and more. And we've stated that if the content contains credit card number, then automatically put that label on that database column, again, within the Purview data catalog. So that's it. That's how we did that. That I think is all that I wanted to show you from our demo. So once again, I will move back to share my presentation. Here we are. All right. So I am happy to have walked you through that, but I want to recap what we saw. So first, we had a coherent view of the data estate, really through this register sources, the sources view, either in a map or a table view, that helps you answer the question, where is my data, right? And make it meaningful to you. So we have the automated data scanning that we saw how easy it was to bring up a data source, register a new scan, have scans that just happen in the background so that you can scale that, bringing in that rich metadata into the data map to create this great resource. We have those 100 out-of-the-box classifiers and the ability to create your own classifiers, and that integration with the Microsoft Information Protection sensitivity labels. Then we saw how easy it is for users and admins to search for data across that data estate, using that search and browse experience into the data catalog to find the right data, to understand where it came from, how it's classified, or find the owners of that data, right? So to be able to apply business glossary terms and understand the workflows. And of course, the ability to get a rich sense of the overview of your sensitive data, right? The reports on what are my data sources, my assets overall, what is going on with my sensitive data through classifications and labeling, and to be able to get an inner view on a broad scale across your environment. So Purview allows you to make the most of your Microsoft investments and your data estate, but it's designed to also help unlock a One Microsoft value. While Purview can help organizations manage their hybrid data estate, your multi-cloud data, it can go even further with Microsoft data sources. So to promote you and to make it easy to adopt Azure Purview, during public preview, customers can also take advantage of 3 amazing offers. One is that we're offering free scanning of your on-premise SQL servers. 2 is that we're offering free scanning of your Power BI tenants. So many customers have said, I have no idea, or I really need to secure that valuable business data, but I need to know what it is, where it is, how it is. Show it to me, please. And 3, that free data sensitivity labeling for Microsoft 365 E5 customers. Bring that all together to be able to have this larger view across that data estate. All right, so a recap as well at a feature level, what Azure Purview offers has huge value today. We've got lots more in store. We are excited to answer questions and get more feedback from you in terms of where we should go next. The vision is broad and exciting to us, and so we ask you to join that excitement and start your Azure Purview journey today, right? Get started today. It's pretty easy. You go to aka.ms, try Azure Purview, and we walk you through all of that. To set up an environment, to bring in data sources, to do your own scan, and to start to figure out what it is you've got out there and how to make better business value of it, make the understanding of your data, answer those questions. What is my data? Where is my data? What is sensitive? And start to move forward on your data governance journey. So with that, I'll give you a few more resources. And then I am actually happy to take more questions, and also to jump back into the demo because there's so much more to show you if there's questions or things that people would like to see in more detail.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, the team is answering questions. There's tons of questions coming in, but here's some theme questions that came in, and perhaps you can elaborate further. So one of them is right now information protection can span 3 different portals, and now Purview is adding the 4th one. Will this be streamlined into a single console that feels enterprise ready, more like, rather than a fractured set of controls and reporting between M365, Azure, on-prem, etc.?
All right, so that's a great question. We've heard some of that feedback. Interested in hearing sort of the sets of functions that you do in those different areas and which ones that you think should be brought together. I'm always curious about, because Azure Data Governance does a variety of things that is focused on the data plane, particularly for your operational and analytical data. And so that's why we sort of gathered it together there. It focuses on bringing that rich metadata across your hybrid and multi-cloud data estate into a single data map. And that's really where we built those experiences on top of. So if people would be, I would really like to hear feedback on what types of things they think that should be pulled together, because obviously different people do different things and need different sets of information, right? So we're not going to put everything into a single portal or studio or view if different roles and different responsibilities and different needs are associated with that portal. So my question is, what is it you think that needs to be put together to achieve what specific aim? And then we can take that feedback and understand where we need to build better bridges and common experiences. Oh, I absolutely hear you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. What about scanning data across other tenants? Many large enterprises have several tenants to support their needs.
So let's see who else is on the call. So at the moment, it's a single tenant. If you feel that and many people, some customers have told us that they have tenants for different reasons, right? Sometimes it's to make sure that the data is separate, and therefore they wouldn't necessarily want to be mixing and crossing that. But other people have mergers and acquisitions where they have multiple tenants, and they do want all that to come into a particular source and a single view across those tenants. So yeah, would love to get feedback on, pretty sure that we're a single tenant today, and we'll have to get understanding of how many customers, how important that is to our customers to take that next step towards multi-tenant.
Great, thank you. The next one is Power BI report server included as part of the data sources?
It's the whole Power BI tenant. So if that's part of the Power BI tenant, I would say yes.
Okay, let me see if there's more.
And sorry, I will invite people on the presenter side to jump on and unmute yourselves if you have answers to these questions as well. We're all part of a bigger team.
There were a lot of questions on on-prem coverage, Laurie, if you could speak to that.
Okay. So on the types of data sources or the so we absolutely know and hear from customers and experience ourselves the large amount of data that is on-prem, and some of it is going to stay on-prem for a variety of reasons, and some people want to move it to the cloud but don't even know what's on there. So clearly there's value in terms of understanding what those data sources are on-prem, to be able to analyze them, to understand what's in there before they actually do data migration into the cloud. You know, one of the first sources that we were working with on-prem is SQL Server, but we know that people have a variety of existing, you know, SAP HANA and a variety of different data sources, and we have a number of connectors that are available today, and is a growing number, to reach out across to more and more on-prem data sources. Do we have a link to that list? Let me see if I have that in our documentation, and we can post a link to that, or if somebody could find that and post it in the Q&A for folks. Other questions?
Yes, there's questions trickling in, and we can continue with that, or we can also, you know, the team here is responding to that one. But you know, what we normally do, we also direct the audience if there's further questions to the actual tech community forum. So there's more coming in. Maybe the team can pick some for you, Laurie.
All right. There is a question that I see here on with an A5 E5 license, what access do I get? So in terms of that, this is an Azure service, and with an E5 license, what you get is the ability to connect your sensitivity labels that you create in the M365 environment, and all the auto labeling rules, and any labels that you target to Purview will then be available to Azure Purview when we scan and have those auto labels applied in the data catalog. So it is a separate service, and it is an Azure service, so it's got meters. So there's a question on MIP, AIP with respect to and differences or comparison with Azure Purview. And Azure Purview is looking at operational and analytical data and looking very broadly across your data estate, right? So we have the ability to go on-prem and go to SQL servers. We have the ability to go out to AWS S3 buckets, and we have the ability to cross a whole series of Azure data sources such that we get that rich view across all of that and bring it into this single data catalog view. The MIP, AIP is very rich and powerful and in market today, and it allows you to do many of those things to scan for the Office file documents and different file types like PDF that have integrated with Microsoft Information Protection. So, question on pricing. There is a pricing page, so if somebody could post the link to that, that would be great. But I will say it's an Azure service, therefore it's a metered service, and it's got meters based on the different sets of things that it does, right? So creating the data catalog, there's a meter for scanning, and more that is explained. And I will repeat that scanning across SQL servers and Power BI is free in public preview. We went public preview in December, and so we've had great reception, lots of customers trying it out. As well as our preview customers who have been just tearing it up and scanning the heck out of their environments to get those rich insights and to be able to understand where their data lives.
Well, great. This has been great. Thank you. And just in case we missed to answer your questions, or if you have additional questions, you can visit Azure Purview Forum at aka.ms/Azure Purview Community. And just to remind folks that tomorrow we'll be hosting a special session on protecting, detecting, and responding to SolarGate using Microsoft 365 Defender. And for that, for details and registrations, if you haven't done it so, please visit us at aka.ms/security webinars. I would like to close this webinar by thanking Lori for an excellent presentation, and thank you to the rest of the team who helped answering the questions. And most of all, I want to thank all of you for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.